What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Mercy has been having a lot of problems in the last couple months. The resurrect ability is simply far too powerful, but there is a way to fix it. There is a perfect replacement that will not only make it more fun, more skill-based, but most importantly, balance the character. So this is going to be kind of a fun video. I really like doing this stuff. I remember trying to make video game characters when I was a kid, and this has always been really interesting to me. Now, of course, this isn't officially from Blizzard. This is just my ideas on what we could do, but stay a while and listen because I think you'll like it. Over the last couple months, it's become pretty clear that the Mercy resurrect ability is quite problematic. It is inherently stronger than any of the other abilities in the game, and that just has to do with the nature of how the res works. So I've talked about this quite a bit in other videos. I don't want to go into a really long explainer on it, but the short version is this. The other support abilities in Overwatch have kind of a slight modifying effect on the characters that are currently in a fight. So it could be a damage boost, it could be a speed boost, it could be the Bionade from Ana. All these different things will affect the characters that are currently in the fight. But what Resurrect does is completely different. It takes a character that's not in the fight at all, that is having absolutely no impact on anything, and it brings them back. So rather than having a 6-on-6 where some of the characters are modified in their effectiveness slightly up or down, it takes a 5 versus 6 and then converts it to a 6 versus 6. And that is why Resurrect is so incredibly powerful and why it is so incredibly difficult to balance. In fact, it might actually be impossible to balance within the game of Overwatch. Now, I know some people have suggested adding a resource meter to Mercy, but really, that's not going to change much. Whether it's on a resource meter or if it's on a cooldown, good players are still going to be able to use the res quite a bit, and it's still going to be ridiculously powerful. So that leaves us with kind of two options. Either one, they buff the other supports and give them stuff that is on an equal power level as Resurrect, but that can lead to power creep, and then that's a whole nother problem in and of itself. But the other option is to simply just remove Resurrect and replace it with something else. And it just doesn't make sense for Blizzard to continually destroy other parts of Mercy's kit and just make her ultimate worse and worse again and again in order to just keep the res. If it's that much of a problem, then just get rid of it and replace it with something else. Alright, so let's get into the fun stuff. So as a replacement for Resurrect, I came up with an ability called Miracle Worker. And I actually spent a decent amount of time on this. I got some images and stuff for you in a bit here. But first, I want to talk to you like where I got the inspiration from this. So I used to play a game called Dota 2. It was one of my favorites. I haven't gotten to play it in a really long time. But one of the characters in that game is called Dazzle. And Dazzle has an ability called Shallow Grave. Now, this is just a regular ability for him. It's not an ultimate or anything. And it says, an ally blessed with Shallow Grave, no matter how close to death, cannot die while under its protection. So this is what the ability looks like in-game. On the left is Dazzle. In the middle is a character named Pudge. And then on the right is Sven. So Sven is attacking Pudge, and then Dazzle hits Pudge with the Shallow Grave buff. And as you can see, Pudge's health goes all the way down to 1, but he just doesn't die until the buff goes away. Now here's the thing. If you were to take this ability and bring it directly into Overwatch, it would be incredibly broken. It would be so overpowered, it would just be ridiculous. Imagine using this on Pharah, who's using her barrage, making her completely invincible, like while she's using her ult. That would just be way too strong, so it wouldn't work. But this kind of gave me some really good ideas and some inspiration on what would work in Overwatch. So what is Mercy as a character? She's a healer, she's a doctor, and what is their job? What is their main role? It's to prevent death. Like, the main thing that a doctor does doesn't bring somebody back. That's kind of like what a necromancer does, right? A doctor prevents death, and I think that could work really well for Mercy. So here it is. This is the idea that I came up with to replace resurrect. Now, obviously, it should go without saying that the numbers would be subject to change. They would need to be tested, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to throw that out there anyways. Just keep that in mind, okay? So, Miracle Worker. It's a single target buff. The range is 30 meters. I picked that on purpose because it's the same range as the Guardian Angel. I figure if she can fly to someone, then she should be able to buff them at that same range. The duration is 3 seconds or until lethal damage occurs. The cooldown is 15 seconds. So this has 2 different effects, but only one of them can ever trigger. Alright, so here's how it works. Mercy places a buff on a targeted ally. This would be similar in function to how Zarya places a projected bubble on one of her teammates. This buff will trigger in effect after 3 seconds or when the target takes lethal damage. If the buff expires without lethal damage, then the target is simply healed for 100 hit points. However, if the target takes lethal damage during those 3 seconds, then death is prevented and the target's HP is set to 50. Now, this is some deliberate wording on my part right here, because one of them can be prevented by Ana's Bionade, and the other one cannot. So the regular healing can be prevented, the other one, the death prevention and setting the HP to 50, cannot be prevented. Now, the reasoning for these numbers specifically is because Ana's Bionade will also heal for 100, but it's an AoE effect and it's instant. So I didn't really want to take away the whole burst healing aspect from Ana, but at the same time, I wanted to have a decent amount of health that gets recovered. So that's why it's 100 hit points, but again, it's only single target, and it's on a 3-second delay. So I thought that was a pretty good trade-off. Now, the reason for the other part, setting the hit point to 50, is I wanted the player to still be in a lot of danger. I didn't want it to just instantly heal them to full. I didn't think that would be good. I want them to be able to survive, like if it's a D.Va ult or something like that, you could quickly throw this on a teammate and they'll survive through it. Or if one of your teammates gets hooked by a Roadhog, you could quickly react and throw this on them, kind of like what Zarya does, where she can have her projected barrier onto a teammate. So it's kind of similar, but not quite. And if there's a lot of follow-up damage, then your teammate is still going to get taken out regardless. But this at least kind of gives them that chance. Now, what about comboing it with other ultimates, like a Pharah or a Reaper or something? It's pretty much the same impact as a Zarya bubble once again, right? Like, it's gonna prevent a little bit, but if there's still sustained damage going at your teammate, they're still gonna get taken out regardless. So it's not even remotely as powerful as like a Shallow Grave ability would be. It's pretty much right in line with how the Zarya bubble works. So there's no worry about it being overpowered when comboed with other players' ults and stuff. Now, there's another really big difference with this ability from Resurrect, in that I think it requires a lot more skill to use. One of the biggest complaints about Mercy in general is that she is a fairly low skill, easy to play character. There isn't a whole lot that you really need to do except, you know, have good positioning and that sort of stuff. With the current version of Resurrect, your teammate dies, you go over, you res them, that's pretty much it. You have a good amount of time to get over to them and use the res before the little globe goes away. But with this ability, it means that you have to be a lot more careful. You have to pay a lot more attention, and if you see one of your teammates that's in a lot of danger, rather than just waiting for them to get taken out and then going over to res them, you can actually prevent it from ever happening. And I think that would give a much needed boost to the skill ceiling that Mercy has. So I like this for a bunch of reasons, and not just because I came up with it, but because it fits with what the character is. Who Mercy is, what she does, and what her history is in the lore, and also the ability itself is just a lot more skill-based than Resurrect, and I think that's also a really good thing. So the next question, I guess, would be, how would this ability work with Mercy's ultimate Valkyrie, since Valkyrie basically just boosts all of her regular stuff? And I think the idea would be to pretty much just double what all of the stats are. So, like, the buff would last for 6 seconds instead of 3, it would heal for 200 instead of 100, and it would set the health to 100 instead of 50. Or they could go another route where you have basically the same stats, everything is still the same as the regular ability, it's just you get a bonus one, kind of like how Mercy gets a bonus res for the current live version of the ultimate. In addition to that, the ultimate itself would probably need some other kind of a buff as well. If you're going to remove Resurrect from Mercy, then you're going to have to compensate a little bit. I think this is a really good replacement, but it's definitely not as strong, so I think the ult would have to have a little bit of a buff to it. So that's my idea, guys. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you have any ideas of your own that might work as a replacement for Res? Let me know in the comments, and if you did like it, make sure you share the video. Also, don't forget to check out my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. The links are down below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.